Thursday. You read them, stltoday.com. Good morning, Tony Messenger.
Good morning, McGraw.
You there? You okay?
I'm here.
Okay,
Are
good.
You there?
No, I'm here. Good. All right, let's get things going. All right. So your column the other day takes a look at Steve Stenger and St. Louis County transit funds. What's going on here?
So there's a report that Metro produces every month, and it gives to the County Transportation Commission, and somebody suggested to me that I should take a look at it. And it shows something very interesting going back to July of last year, and that is that the Proposition A funds, this is the tax that the county voted on in 2010, and it was pitched on the idea that we're going to raise our taxes half a cent, and we're going to use enough of the proceeds to keep Metrolink services at whatever level they were, because otherwise they were going to have to cut services way back. And then whatever's left is going to go to future expansion. Well, since July of 2016, that's not what's been happening. What County Executive Steve Stenger has done is taken all of the Proposition 10 money, or Proposition A money, and put it into transit. So all that money goes to Metro. And that doesn't mean Metro's getting more money, because there's another tax that we passed in 1973 that for the last 10 years or so, about half of that tax goes to Metro and half of it goes to the county for other transportation needs. Now, County Executive Stenger is putting a small portion of that 1973 tax into Metro and using the rest, some of it for police, but much of it for road and bridge projects. So the end result is what he's been doing since July, and not too many people were aware of it. The council voted on it, but the council never pays attention to the budget. The county executive controls the budget. What happened since July is that the county executive is taking money meant for transit and using it on road and bridge projects. And of course, people who have been reading my column know that a lot of his road and bridge projects go to donors and campaign supporters.
So Prop A wasn't just Metrolink; that was all of mass transit, right? That was buses
right,
as well as
all of mass transit.
Right.
And the promise made to voters very clearly was we're going to keep Metro service up to the level that it was, and then the rest of the money is going to go into expansion. And what's really interesting about the timing of it is that right before he started taking that money from transit to go into road and bridge projects, he was talking about, hey, I'm going to be the transit expansion guy. We're going to expand transit. And the money that is supposed to go to expand transit is actually now being used. And so it's not going into the account that it's supposed to go into to expand transit. So he's saying one thing on one hand, we're going to expand transit, we're going to study these routes, and there was enough money in the Proposition A fund to study those routes. It took him a year and a half to get to that study that he talked about. But the money that's supposed to be going into a transit account right now for the future is not going into that account.
Tony Messenger, so I know there's a big talk about this north-south extension, and the city just passed their bill this last election. But
yes.
There, from overview, 50,000 view, a 50,000-foot view, I don't hear a lot of people in St. Louis County talking about, boy, I sure do wish Metrolink was expanded. Boy, I sure do. It's almost like the opposite, like they don't want Metrolink expanded in St. Louis County. I'm talking about the rank-and-file voter.
Maybe the rank-and-file voter. I hear it a lot from the business community, because the business community understands what expanding transit can do to the overall community, not just the county, the city, the entire St. Louis region. You talk to people in the business community, people who try to attract millennials and high-quality employees to come to this community, and they're all on board with North-South Metrolink expansion. They want it to be safe. They would like the city, the county, St. Clair, and Metrolink to get together and figure out what they're going to do to try to improve the safety. No doubt about that. But you talk to business leaders, and they all believe expanding transit, North-South Metrolink, is a key to this region's future. And that's where what's going on right now with the shell game of county transit funds is so important. City voters just passed a proposition intended to help raise more money for that expansion of North-South Metrolink. And what was sold to voters and what voters were talking about, what city leaders were talking about is, look, we're going to take this tax, we're going to take the county tax that's sitting in a fund and continuing to build up for future expansion. We're going to leverage federal money, and we're going to find a way to make this thing happen. Nobody believed that the money raised in the city tax that we just voted on in April was going to be enough. It was going to be city, county, federal government all together as partners. Now, one of those major partners is no longer fulfilling the deal. They're taking the money that's supposed to go into transit expansion and using it right now on road and bridge projects.
So, but the argument is that transit, it was supposed to be dedicated for Metrolink, but he's using it for bridges and roads. I mean, isn't bridges and roads sort of transit in a sense?
Well, that's the argument he's making. The argument he makes is that buses drive on the roads that we're fixing, so it's money for transit. I'm not sure I buy that argument. I don't think a lot of people buy that argument. But what he's clearly doing is taking money from an account that was promised to voters to go to future transit expansion and using it right now on road and bridge projects.
Mm-hmm. Plot thickens. Tony Messenger, St. Louis Post-Dispatch columnist, Tuesdays and Thursdays here at the Big 550 KTRS and all the time at stltoday.com. Tony, thanks.
Good to talk to you, McGraw. Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
825.